one or the other. It has to happen. It just so you need to pay attention to your students to make sure that you put people up with the right people.
Are you looking for a way to drive growth, sales, communication, and retention in your academy? Kovar Systems 6-month Program Director course is designed to help members of your team thrive in the important role of Program Director. With step-by-step training, we will cover a wide range of topics, including prospect follow-up, overcoming objection, and securing enrollments. Our program will teach your team members to effectively communicate the values and benefits of martial arts, which can be a game changer in securing more enrollments at your academy. Our next 6-month course starts on this date. So don't wait and visit our site, www.kovarsystems.com, to get your team enrolled in the upcoming course. Again, that's www.kovarsystems.com. Enroll now and get ready to see some real results in your business.
Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast, the ultimate resource for ambitious, hardworking school owners that want to get their business and their life to the next level. My name is Dave Kovar. I'm a lifetime martial artist, business owner, speaker, and author. My goal is to empower listeners with the knowledge and the tools they need to break through barriers and really get their business and their life to the next level. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Welcome to the Satori Lifestyle Satori Masters Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kovar. I'm super excited about my guest today. This is Karel Pravec, known as the Silver Fox. How are you, sir?
Great.
Thank
you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. So, Karel, you've got an interesting background. You are an educated guy. You're now full-time. You run a couple of jiu-jitsu schools and do seminars all over the world and have an online program. I mean, you've done amazing stuff, but originally, you're a money guy, right? You went to, was it Columbia University, to get the university correct?
Yeah. I went to Columbia for MBA in finance. I kind of fell into it. I sort of, when I was in college, I studied economics, then worked for a couple of years, then went to business school. And I enjoyed, sort of working in a corporate environment, working on financings. Basically, it was very similar to what we do in martial arts, problem solving.
Interesting.
But, after a while, after a while, it sort of, I rose through the ranks. I really did not enjoy rising through the corporate ladder, because I think the higher you go, the more involved or more sort of aware you become of all the political games and things that are going on in any organization, and you just sort of start to say, this may not be for me.
Interesting. Now,
so that's.
And so you made the decision because, that was clearly you probably were making pretty good money and you're living kind of the, living the dream, so to speak, right? But so your original background, you started out before jiu-jitsu. Take us back to when you started. I know Taekwondo was your first art, but kind of run me through, when did you actually start officially martial arts training, and then that transition from into jiu-jitsu and then eventually full-time?
Yeah. I remember, it's kind of, I got drawn into it by the Bruce Lee movies, Kung Fu Theater. And, I remember one time I'm, watching this stuff and I'm trying to do it myself in the living room watching TV. And I just for a second, I was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. So I started studying Taekwondo. That was the first art I started studying. I enjoyed it quite a bit, whatever I do it kind of maybe to excess, but
I
same
totally
thing.
I believe that totally. Totally believe it.
This is why we get along so well. And I basically was training 7 days a week, and I got my black belt and started to teach. And me and a couple of other senior students would go to a lot of different seminars back in the 80s, Wally J, Small Circle of Jiu-Jitsu, Joe Lewis, Superfoot, Wallace. This was one of the highlights of my career at not this year's conference, but last year's conference, where I taught, at the same time in a room split by a big curtain with Superfoot, and I was on the other side, and I was like, man, I said to myself, you made it.
How cool is that?
You're teaching on the same premises as Superfoot. And he's such a good guy.
He's such a good guy. Actually, your class was actually bigger than his. I remember. I remember thinking, oh, of course, we all love Bill Wallace. I've got to hang out with him a lot. He's an amazing guy. at a crazy good, still
He
doing his
is.
thing.
He's true legend.
Yep.
And if you don't know who he is, guys, whether you're studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Kung Fu, or any other martial art, you should look it up. I think it's pretty important for us. This is one of the things we're losing in martial arts today, as you know, information becomes much more prevalent and much readily available. We start to lose sense of history and path that was tread by others, maybe not specifically in your style. So look him up if you
Yeah.
don't know who he is.
And by the way, he's
And you know,
his first art was he wrestled in school, and his first martial art was judo. So he actually can grapple as well. So
judo, yeah,
yep, yep. So so now
yeah,
you're doing that.
and
You're going to seminars, and eventually you went to a jujitsu seminar.
yeah, I think it was back in. To be honest, I don't know, but you know, one of my friends, one of my regular training partners, was saying, "Hey, Karel, check this out. You need to, you know, here's a VHS tape, Gracie in action."
Mhm.
And I looked at it, I was like, it's kind of interesting. So, by the way, these guys are coming to New Jersey, Parsippany Para Hotel, which is, you know, moved a little bit further west. It's not maybe 10, 15 miles from me where I am right now. So so two of us went there, and, you know, you could see like a lot of who's who in the American scene of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the early days. Some of those guys don't train anymore. But basically, the whole, you know, the family was there. Helio was there, Hoyler was there, Hoist was there, Hickson was there,
Wow.
Horian, and then, you know, it was like 12, 15 adults, and they brought like 8, you know, kids, you know, nephews and so forth. And it was a full 2 days, Saturday, Sunday on the carpet. And, you know, basically I was like, this is kind of interesting. Let me incorporate that into sort of into our training. So, you know, we would, with Taekwondo, that's how I got my nose broken. I remember I clinched the guy from as he's jumping and doing a spinning elbow. I'm coming in and getting caught by it, coming in for a clinch. Fortunately, I didn't go out. But anyways, you know, we incorporated that. And then the following year, they had another seminar. By then, it's kind of weird. I don't remember exactly what year the Playboy article that came out that kind of said this is the toughest man in the United States about Horian. And it started to, you know, people like the sort of people with money and actors and stuff started to really kind of look into it. And I think people the family started to splinter a little bit more, where, you know, people started to do their own thing. So I think
Right.
the following year they came into New York. It was Horian, and I don't remember, Hoist was with him too, you know, just like the year before. And I went to the seminar, and again, you know, how much can you pick up in a weekend? But whatever we did, we incorporated that. And I believe it was '93 that Horian sent Craig Kukuk, who was the first American black belt in Brazilian
Right.
Jiu-Jitsu, to New Jersey to teach, and he would teach in central New Jersey, in New York City, and Philadelphia. And basically, the most classes you could do was 3 a week. It was $25 cash. And, you know, you'd have to travel. So usually I would wind up doing 1 or 2, basically in New York and central Jersey. And, you know, I think in fair short order, he had a falling out with Horian, and he teamed up with Renzo Gracie to do tapes, you know,
I remember
instructional
those. I
tapes.
remember those
Yeah.
tapes. They were the first ones out. That's what got me started. Is the Henzo and Craig Kukuk videos.
Yeah. And then once they did the tapes, you know, Renzo's basically would come up from Brazil for a month or 2, teach some classes, do some privates, film, and then go back to Brazil. And I think in I want to say maybe 95, 96, he moved to New York permanently. And then they split up. I've stayed with Renzo from pretty much from day one. So that's sort of how I started to, you know, stay in the Renzo Gracie tribe. But also I started initially, you know, training Taekwondo once or twice a week. I would do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And after a year or 2, I'm kind of looking at this thing. I was like, man, I really wanted to just know what would happen if I got taken down. And then I realized it was just so intricate, so much to it, that I was like, I need to know more. And I just started to shift from 6 or 5 and 2 or 6 and 1 to, you know, 3 and 4, 4 and 3, 5 and 2, and now pretty
Right.
much I'm training 7
Well,
7
it's
days
interesting. It's
jiu-jitsu.
interesting because you know, I think I officially started actually 30 years ago this June. I officially started with Caesar, right? In June of 1994.
Hmm.
And we had been messing around. We had the Craig Kukuk Kenzo Gracie tapes the year before, and I wrestled in high school. But here's my point: is that I also, like, early on said, "This is amazing." The difference, one of the main differences between you and me, and I'm not. It's not that you're good and I'm bad, or vice versa, as much as is that you went all in with jujitsu, right? And
Yeah.
I continue to train in all these other arts because I love them, and I felt kind of an obligation to them. And I probably spend more time with jujitsu, but fast forward 30 years later, uh, why when I trained with you, and I'm guessing if we both trained in 1994, 95, I probably could have given you some game, right? But when we train now, it's like I'm totally outclassed on every. By the way, I love training with you because you're so technical and you're so
I
smooth and
appreciate it.
gentle and very safe with it. But it's a whole nother level. Like they talk about, there's levels in jujitsu. Well, you've reached a pinnacle, and part of me thinks, and by the way, no regrets that I could have done that probably if I focused all my effort there instead of it being fractionalized. And like I said, there's no wrong way. My path is different. My path, I love doing. I have no complaints about the course I've taken, but I also know that because my knowledge level is pretty broad, it hasn't allowed me to go as deep as it could have been if I just focused on one thing. And so,
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
we talked about that. It's very interesting to me. It's like I look at it, it's, like doctors, right? You have doctors that basically specialized generalists that you can come in with a lot of different ailments, and if at some there's a need for that, and then you have extreme specialists where a guy is an orthopedist but he does nothing but elbows,
Yep. Yep.
not even shoulders. And I think it's kind of interesting, where I agree with you there. It's not bad or good, or it's just what we chose to do. And I admire sort of your proficiency in all these different martial arts. And it's kind of interesting. Again, I think it's great to have choices and let people make decisions as to whatever they think is going to provide them with the greatest satisfaction.
Yeah, so it's like it's all good, but part of me is like, uh, maybe I should have focused on one thing, but it's all right. My martial arts ADHD would have kicked in, and I would have got bored and moved on to something else. I figure out my attention span literally, like I can't do seminars because I can go about an hour, and that's about my limit in anything. It doesn't matter what it is, and I get bored and sidetracked, and so that's, I think, why it's worked well for me because I can focus on this for boom, and I can. By the way, I could do an hour of this and then another art I could do for days that way. But if it was one thing, it's pretty soon I just, my mind starts wandering. So hey, tell me now,
Yeah.
you got two schools. So when did you go full time? When did you say forget the finance? I'm going to do jujitsu for a career. What year was that when you made that change?
Um, I want to say around 2010.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit earlier. So I had the school already. I actually got talked into opening a school. I subleased from a school that was the karate guy was on the lease, and then he subleased a few days to wrestling and a few days a week to me
Okay.
for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And he was training with me as well. And what wound up happening is, I started with 3 days a week, and then I needed fourth, and then I needed fifth, and then I needed sixth as the program grew. And, I actually had to sublease two different physical locations to have
Wow.
6 days a week.
Okay.
And, and I still had basement, mats in my basement, so I could always train in, the seventh day. So I wound up, when somebody signed up, I said, by the way, tomorrow's class is, 2 miles down the road in this location. And so I started looking for a bigger place, and kind of thought maybe we'll move together, but ultimately it was just he wanted to stay where he was, and I needed a bigger place, and I needed something 7 days a week. So that's when I basically switched to full time. The school by then might have been 2 3 years, so around 2010, might have been 2008. I don't quite remember when I
I got it.
switched, but basically, I realized that I was doing two things, and I needed to either focus on one or the other, because you couldn't do two
I
things
get it.
full time. So I chose jujitsu. I
Yeah,
like
and
it better.
yeah. Well, and one of the things, for I've been to your school several times, and what's always impresses me is, this is not the Wild West anymore. We could certainly talk about Wild West
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu stories back in the day, and that was fun. We did that a couple weeks ago when you're out visiting. We had reminisced about how things were so different. But still, nevertheless, it's kind of like it's going into any martial arts school, but a jiu-jitsu school for sure can be really intimidating, and if you have prior training, the whole deal is kind of the old school was if you come in with any rank from another school, you're kind of, you don't even, your student, you don't even have to tell your students, you're marked. You don't have, the students don't have to be told. They're going to be a line of people to show, to kind of defend the school's honor. Right. And,
Yeah.
somehow I've been to your school a few times and I was nothing but greeted with just, graciously, everybody's got this great vibe. The training was wonderful. It was high level, but also very safe. So what do you do to create that environment where it's just so welcoming, and also you don't grow a jiu-jitsu school to the numbers you have without doing a lot right. So what are some of your keys to running a successful school?
Well, you say like we run the best school in town. We got the cleanest school. We got the best facility. It's basically very similar to that. It's basically I'm obsessed with having the best jiu-jitsu technology for me and for my students. So world-class instruction is sort of one of our hallmarks. Nice clean facility, and the third one is welcoming atmosphere. I agree with, the world of jiu-jitsu has changed tremendously. I think, way back in the day, when people would come in and, Frank, who's one of my, right hand guy, he told me, he's like, do you know, these guys are petrified of you? And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? But the early days were rough, very, very rough. And I think, jiu-jitsu can be for anybody if they give themselves, it's even if with the right environment, it's not easy because you kind of don't understand it. The move is not happening for you. You are not training as much as you'd like, or maybe you're training too much. So there's always these challenges that you would have with any other martial art. And you don't need to add some sort of a meat locker sort of
right
fight club. This, it's, this drives me crazy. I never refer to and I rarely say never, refer to my school as a gym.
Right.
It's a school. It's an academy. You can call it a dojo. I'll accept that too. We are an institution of learning.
Yes.
How can you be an institution of learning without
it's so funny that you say
that environment?
It's so funny that you say that because guys that call their places gyms, a bunch of my friends do that. I never say anything, but I feel the same way. It's like, man, when I think of a gym, I think of a weight room or a boxing place where people are, it's got a different vibe to it. And I totally agree with you. It's to me, it's more than semantics. I could never call my place a gym as well. So you, what do you do if you have a knucklehead that comes into your school? And besides, what is your, how do you know if they're a fit?
Well, we don't. And that's, you need to give people a chance. So, one thing that's very, it's kind of an interesting thing when we have somebody that has some training and comes in, and you can kind of pick it off when they start during sparring. So in fundamental classes, there's no sparring, but in advanced, there's sparring, rolling. And you see somebody just kind of picking up, like going to the weakest members of the herd, so to speak. And the place, it literally becomes like an angry hive. Like I get agitated without, I try not to let others know, but it's either we just feed off each other. It's palatable.
Everybody knows that you got to defend the honor of the dojo at some point. Yeah.
It's not even defending the honor, it's defending the weak. Why are you picking on the weak ones? Why you want to have a hard roll? Let's go with somebody that can handle it. And so usually what we do is if we got a knucklehead, so to speak, I usually try to put him with it's kind of like inverse order. So usually if I don't know and the guy kind of has a vibe like I'm not quite sure about him, I'll put him with kind of a good, say, brown belt, for example. Okay. Got somebody that's pretty tough, sturdy. Doesn't have to be big, just can take care of himself or herself. And then, depending on how that goes, I move the guy down to purple belt. Then I move him down to blue, and then I move him down to, okay, now it's so but also there is some people that do not understand, and I think we owe it to them and to ourselves as a school to give them a chance to develop their true personality. And a lot of times people will kind of like, maybe they came in with a sort of not a good understanding what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
They
is, or
didn't know
what,
better. They didn't know better.
yeah. And you got to give them a chance to, without breaking them. But if they're kind of not a good person, and this is not just an anomaly or misunderstanding or something, where now they're going to have that rough training every time they come in until they either start to understand or leave, one or the other. It has to happen. You need to pay attention to your students to make sure that you put people up with the right people, because usually the people that are not for lack of better words, not good ones, they want to go against the weak ones.
Yep.
No. Let's put you with somebody that's it doesn't have to have experience. Okay, you've been training for 9 months. Okay, I'll put you with somebody who's been training 9 months, but somebody that can handle you.
Totally. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think this is becoming, I don't know, from my perception, it's less and less. It's like, do you remember like 25 years ago, you didn't go to somebody else's seminar. It was kind of like, this is my, and a lot of that has dropped now. People are more open and receptive. I feel like the culture in general is moving in the right direction. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. These kind of things are less common. And also, I think online stuff has made that, because now there is no secrets.
Right.
Everything's online.
Yep, exactly. That's really, because that back in the day there was secrets, and I was telling you the story about a very famous guy that showed me a move so I could beat a guy at a seminar, and then he turned around and said, "Don't ever teach that to anybody." It's like, I'll show you this, but anymore it's all there. So switching gears a little bit, you're to be politically correct. How do I say this? You're an aging martial artist, meaning you might train sometimes with guys that are a bit younger than you, I'm guessing, upon occasion.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
what are you doing to, I know that by the way, you got a great book, Fluid Jiu-Jitsu, and I know that's a big part of your training. What do you do? Because here you are, you're you're closer to 60 than you are 40. Let's put it that way. I'm guessing. And what are you doing to keep yourself still to where you can get out there and train on a regular basis? So what advice would you give to an aging martial artist?
There's multiple layers to that. I think, first of all, I would train more than less.
Okay.
The reason for that is because when you train infrequently, let's say twice a week, you're healed, you feel great, and you don't have pains, which means that when you're going with somebody, you're gonna go because you feel
Healthy.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next day you can't move. Then you recover the second day after, like, okay, yeah, it's better. And then the third day you feel great and you do it again. This is not the best way for skill acquisition. I think what we're trying to do is become the best we can be. So the question then becomes, how can I train the most amount without breaking myself? Rather than how can I do well this one time, which is basically, that's what competitions are for. So I think it becomes multi-layered, where if you train, say some people may need more recovery than others, but let's just say, if you train 4 times a week versus twice a week, guess what? That third and fourth time, you're not going to be doing as well as the guy that trains twice a week. But in 3 years, there will be a material difference in your skill levels. Yeah. And because your body's kind of beaten down pretty much every day, you basically have nothing to rely on but your technique, rather than kind of like, yeah, I'm feeling good. So that's the advice I would give to people. I actually have a weekly schedule because it's important. You cannot just go hard 4 days in a row. If I go hard 4 days in a row, the 5th day, I'm going to be really, really, like, my back, I'm going to be barely walking. My back's going to hurt. So I try to keep a schedule like where I alternate hard with easy days. So I'm still training. I might flow roll. I might train in the water, basically solo BJJ drills. If you're a striker, that's even better. Striking in the water is one of the best things you could possibly do for yourself. And then, so I alternate them. So I give my body, like, I still feed the muscle memory. You get the water resistance, but it's hard to hurt yourself in the pool unless you bash your head, on the bottom or the side of the pool. But other than that, it's really good. I have my rotation of training partners, but on Fridays and Sundays, I usually go with some of the bigger, younger guys. I like to look at myself as a middle aged, but basically, you need to push yourself too, because that's your test. That's gives me the feedback as to what works, what doesn't work, and what I need to work on in the next couple of days of the week. And that's I truly look at it as a path to accumulating as much technical knowledge as possible.
So I got to tell you that was really helpful. We've never had this discussion. We've talked a lot about this because, of course, I exercise every day, right?
Yeah.
But I only do jujitsu like we were saying before, like a good day, a good week is 3 or maybe 4 times, right? And
Yeah.
but the way you described it makes total sense. Like like today, I'm feeling really good. Like I'm ready. When we get done with this podcast, I'm gonna go train, right? I'm like, but I get what you're saying. Like it's my advice I give to people about fitness. A little something's better than a lot of nothing. Try to do something
Yeah.
every day. And not super intense. I love it. That's really helpful to me. Like I can see, and I know that I competed in an event last August, and I did a lot more training because of that. And I actually felt like for the first time in 20 years, my jujitsu was actually getting better, right? But it
Yeah.
had to do with being daily. So that's a good. I'm going to have to recalibrate my schedule a bit to see how I can accommodate for that.
I think it's there's a lot of a lot of people out there that like lift heavier, train less. I don't believe in that. A lot of times I look at martial arts basically in the eyes of the Japanese sort of master of something that is intent on being the best he possibly can be. Whether it's tear ceremony. And I remember, this is, guys, if you train martial arts, you should see Jiro Loves Sushi. I forget the name, if I'm not sure. Yeah.
Great. That was great.
He's like in his 80s, makes world class sushi, and his son is in his 50s, and they're like, well, this guy's waiting in the wings.
He
When are
still
you
won't
going
let
to
his son
retire?
do stuff, right?
Yeah. Why you keep at it? And he said, because I think I can do better. And that is a great quote, and I think can be applied to any martial arts. And I think once you sort of adapt that, don't get me wrong, when I'm on the mat, sometimes I get my Irish up and I'm going to go hard after, if the guy goes hard, I'm going to go hard after him. But if I look at it more sort of from a bigger picture, I want to be as good as I possibly can. I want to make sure my grips, my sequences are precise. That requires more training than less.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, hey man, it's been great, having you on the show. I want to be respectful of your time, so I'm gonna wrap it up a little bit here. And any closing thoughts for I'm gonna feed you this one. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna lob you a pitch here. How important is passion for what you do? How does that affect your business?
Immensely, immensely. I think I was, if you asked me for closing words, I was going to say, enjoy the journey, enjoy it. Yeah, there will be days that you're tripping over yourself and you're not going to have a good time, but that's a good day because maybe it's going to show you things that you need to work on. But try to enjoy the path, because if you don't, there are easier ways to make money. Passion is the X factor in running a school. There are guys that have open schools at the same time, or maybe even before me, that you look at them, they look miserable.
Yep.
And their school has half the numbers that I have. Because I do believe that my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is world class, and that I'm a good teacher. That said, I could always get better, and I'm planning on it. But I believe the X factor is passion.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's so often people forget that, man, like you've heard me say it 100 times, martial arts first, teaching second, business third. Just like, when you stay connected to what you're doing, you just walk on the floor. You're just a better teacher, man. You're just more enthusiastic. And that's half the job of being a good business person. Well, I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate all the great tips you've given me just in general and specifically in jiu-jitsu over the years. And I look forward to some more great roles going forward.
Sounds good. I look forward to seeing you next time.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you a martial arts instructor looking to improve your teaching skills and build a strong team of future instructors? Well, look no further than the Satori Alliance, an international association of martial arts instructors. Our mission is to positively impact the global martial arts community by establishing a shared level of martial arts instruction, professionalism, and continuous learning. With our instructor certification program, you'll gain the confidence, communication skills, and classroom management techniques to run a professional and well-run martial arts floor of any age group. We invite you to schedule a free consultation with one of our program directors who can evaluate your instructor team's size, schedule, and training content. We'll outline the Satori Alliance master steps that have helped build and maintain strong teams of instructors. To learn more about the Satori Alliance and schedule your free consultation, please visit our website at www.thesatorialliance.com/podcast. That's SATORIALLIANCE.com/podcast. Join our community of passionate martial arts instructors today.
Thank you for tuning in today to our podcast. I hope you found it valuable and inspirational. To stay connected, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star review. And we really sincerely would appreciate some feedback. Your feedback helps us to create high quality content that will help others in the future. If you'd like to follow me, you can go to Dave Kovar on Facebook or Haunchie Dave Kovar on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on next episode.